Welcome to Heroes Have Wings, the podcast that gives a voice to the unsung heroes of Army aviation. I'm your host, Jason Santiago. For the Army aviators, crew chiefs, and flight medics who put it all on the line in the heat of battle, this is their opportunity to share untold stories of courage, sacrifice, and unbreakable will. From their beginnings to the battlefield, you hear about their hardships, the moments of doubt, and how they overcame impossible odds to save lives. These warriors didn't just fight for survival, they put others above themselves, embodying the true spirit of heroism and selfless service. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Heroes Have Wings. Today, we're honored to have Rahkeem Francis on the show, a man whose journey from New York City's Bronx and Queens to the emergency department is nothing short of extraordinary. Rahkeem is a 12-year Army veteran who proudly served as a flight medic, returning home with every soldier he went out with. And he's here to share the realities behind those high-stake missions during the global war on terror. Now, the director of an emergency department, Rahkeem is expanding his commitment to serve by overseeing transformative projects and leading teams with his relentless drive and passion for excellence. Whether he's cheering on his kids at football, pouring himself a glass of whiskey, or cooking something up delicious, Rahkeem is a powerhouse of ambition, authenticity, and resilience. And today, he's here to tell us what it really means to be a protector and a leader. Rahkeem Francis, welcome to Heroes Have Wings.
Thanks for having me. That doesn't even feel like that was me that you was introducing. I was like, man, that guy sounds powerful.
I just want to tell you, I am honored to have you here. I haven't seen you in a few years, and you are a sight for sore eyes, and I appreciate you spending this time with me for the world to get to know you, right? Because, like I told you when we were on the phone, I feel like you're one of those people that I looked up to you as an aviator. You being a flight medic, I mean, you're essentially one of my heroes. And I always was proud of the hard work you did and how you carried yourself and just conducted business. So I'm glad you're on Heroes Have Wings. How you doing, man?
I'm good. I could complain, but it wouldn't do no good anyway. It wouldn't solve a single problem. So
Yeah, I agree with you. Life overall, we're going to get into everything. Essentially, like I said before we start, I want you to be yourself and just show the world, the type of person you are, because I got to spend at least 3 years of my life with you, which was a great experience, and I just want people to know who you are. So when we start off, I do something. It's called quick hits. Coffee or energy drinks?
coffee,
City life, country life?
country life now. It's quiet out here.
Summer, yeah, summer heat, winter cold.
Cold.
Movies, books?
Books,
Dogs or cats?
dogs,
Beach vacation or mountain retreat?
mountain retreat.
Wake up early, stay up late?
Wake up early.
Action movies or comedies?
Comedy.
Camping trip or road trip?
Road trip.
All right. Texting or calling?
Calling.
All right, I like that. All right, man. So we're gonna dive into this real briefly. Tell us where you're originally from.
So I was born in Queens, New York. My parents moved to the Bronx. We lived about 6 blocks from Yankee Stadium for a good little bit. And then we moved
You a
back
Yankee fan?
all day.
Hey, how you feel they in the World Series right now?
I love it. This is the first time in
Yes.
15 years that we've been in the World Series. It's a good year.
Yep. I'm from the Northeast as well, so I am a Yankees fan. But I didn't mean to interrupt you. So 6 blocks from Yankee Stadium. Go ahead.
Yeah, 6 blocks from Yankee Stadium. We went back to Queens for me to go to high school, and that's where they still live now.
So your parents, they're still married?
Mm-hmm.
Let's go. How many years?
Oh my gosh, I don't even know. As long as I can remember.
Now, with your parents being married, how old are you now?
38.
38. So pretty much your whole life?
My whole life.
All right. So with your parents, you having both siblings, not siblings, but both parents in your house throughout your whole life, how did that shape you as the man you are today?
Man, I got to witness what true love really was, right? It wasn't always
Yeah.
pretty, right? But it was
Hey, it's
authentic,
true
right?
love though. Yeah.
It was authentic, you know. They would I would never see them argue with each other, but I know when they had a little tiff, right? And
Hmm.
they knew when to take it behind closed doors. But I've never seen two people love each other harder in my life than my mom and dad.
So do you look when you think of relationships, is that something you want to model yourself after your parents?
Oh, they number one, yeah.
How was your relationship with your parents?
Great. I talk to my mom every day.
Every day? How about your dad?
I talk to him through my mom.
Okay.
Yeah,
He's
so like,
usually is he in the background talking?
yeah, he in the background
Yeah.
talking. He'll walk by on the camera and say something slick, and then and then
Yeah.
walk off. Yeah,
All right. So with both your parents being together, how did that influence you as a young child coming up now that you have kids of your own? How did that influence you on how you're a man today?
I think my parents, I believe, were role model parents. They didn't do everything right. Nobody does,
Correct.
but they were always present, right?
Hmm.
And that's what I took from that is be present, be present.
Okay. What was it like growing up in the Bronx in Queens?
Fast pace, fast pace, lots of distractions. Real easy, real easy to end up making a decision that's probably not the best, and the consequences be greater than you could ever anticipate.
Yeah.
Looking back at it,
I'm familiar.
it was easy to
Yeah.
make a somewhat childish decision that could have a lasting impact and not know it.
Hmm. Yeah. Because I know you grew up in them early '90s, and I was on a family trip this weekend, and we talked about that. Me and my cousins, how it was rough in the Northeast, well, all over America during those early '90s.
Hmm.
How did your parents protect you? Because I'm familiar with the Bronx, especially Queens, not so much. How did your family, your mom and dad, protect you from the streets growing up?
Sports.
Sports.
I played baseball my whole life, and that was my first love, right?
Hmm.
And I think that's what kept me out of the streets was my love for baseball. Was what kept me on the straight and narrow.
Yeah. How many siblings do you have?
I've got three. I've got two sisters and a brother. They're all younger than me. Um, my brother is no longer with us. He passed a couple years ago.
Sorry to
Um,
hear that.
yeah, and then my two sisters. Next closest sibling is my sister. She's 34, 35. Got twins. She's back at the house, and my youngest sister just left the house. She's 19, 20. She's 20.
Mhm.
She just left the house to go to college, and undoubtedly
Nice.
she'll be back too.
Yeah. So, how was it being the oldest brother in the family? Did you
All the
have a big
lessons were
role?
learned. Yeah, all the lessons were learned at my expense. Um, which I'll take that. I'll take that for my sibling.
Yeah.
Um, they didn't make the same mistakes that I did. They found
Mhm.
different ways to make mistakes.
How's your relationship with your siblings?
Good, good. Obviously, I don't talk with them as much as I talk to my mom, but I talk to my whole family through my mom. My little
Yeah.
brother, he talked to the family through my dad, and then I
Hmm.
talked to the family through my mom. So we're the only two that ever left New York. Um, so that's how we stayed in touch.
What do you think is one of the biggest challenges leaving the city life?
Slowing down,
Mm.
slowing down. Um, New York is always something going on. Always something going on. There's always somewhere to be. There's always something to do. There's always something, and just taking a deep breath and realizing that I don't have to do nothing right now. I don't have
Yeah.
anywhere to be. That's a change.
You ever miss the city life?
The life, no, I miss it sometimes. I want to go back, but that's I would I would struggle to raise kids and be able to provide
Yeah,
a living in that environment. I can't do it.
yeah, I
I
agree
don't
with
want
you.
to say I can't do it. I couldn't imagine doing it in today's world.
Yeah, you'd probably have to have. Do you think you'd have to have more than one job?
I would almost say that I would have to have more than one job, um, and a partner that makes a really, really good living on top of it to make that work and be
Yeah,
present as a parent.
yeah, and that's a challenge in itself. I think that's one thing that we as parents battle with every day, right? Provide, be present.
Right,
And I know the role as fathers, that's one of the things we have to do on a regular basis is we protect and provide, right? So being present, that's that's one thing I didn't have, being my father being present, but you had that, right? And you
right.
realize how important that is, and you want to carry that forward for your own children. Who's one of the biggest influences in your life?
Biggest influences in my life: my mom and my dad. Yeah.
Your mom and dad?
Hmm. Yeah.
What do you think is one of the biggest challenges you've seen them go through, and what did you take away from that?
Being a dual income family, right? They had to work long hours, Monday through Friday, sometimes on the weekends. My dad, he worked for Brinks for a long time, and working for Brinks, the armored car service,
Mm-hmm.
they don't necessarily trust everybody completely. So, they had the cameras in their pans and the microphones in their buttons, and you don't get your schedule too far in advance, so you can't plan stuff. So you might know you work Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday this week, but you're not gonna know till Monday night that you're supposed to be there at 4 in the morning Tuesday. Um, so it was good money for him, but not good predictability. So right, even his time
Mm-hmm.
at home, it was spent sleeping or getting ready for the next day, and so he left that and went to Coca Cola. He worked there for 20 plus years. Had a steady schedule.
Yeah.
He was an early morning riser, so he was up at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the afternoon in the morning, gone before I ever went to school. But he was home when I got home from school.
That's good.
Yeah, and my mom she was leaving school. She was leaving when I was leaving for school, so she was up with me, getting ready, making sure we got out the door on time. We go to school. By
Hmm.
the time we come home, we got a parent there, and then they both there on the weekend. So they did what they had to do to work it to make it work out, so that somebody was always there for us.
Yeah. What did you being a parent now? What did you take away from your parents being hardworking, blue collar people, and making sure they provided, they were there for you guys, made sure they provided that wonderful household. What would you take away from that?
So I'm competitive by nature. So the fact that my parents were so present, but also was able to provide together, I wanted to be able to say, everything that they did for me, I want to be able to make sure I could do that tenfold for my kids, right?
Hmm.
Because I want my kids to turn around and be just as competitive, so that my grandkids have an even better life than
Yeah, yeah.
I could provide for my kids if they have just a smidge of the competition that comes in this bloodline. So
Hmm.
that's what I get from that.
Okay. What were your dreams and goals as a child, growing up in Queens and in the Bronx?
I never thought I'd do anything besides play baseball.
Really?
Never thought I'd
Did
do
you
anything.
play? Did you play in college?
Mm-mm. Nope. I joined the army right out of high school.
All right, we're gonna get to that. We're gonna get to that. So, was there a pivotal moment in your life as a child or a teenager where you said, "You know what? I'm not gonna play baseball. Let me join the army." Because my story is very similar to yours. I had a great passion for football. I thought I was gonna go play college football. All that ended with an injury. Next day, I joined the army, and bam, there I was.
So I wish I could blame it on an injury. Mine was a silly decision. Um, I was in a high school with 5,000 kids, most of which were Asian, back in Flushing High School, and they put me in physics. I didn't want to take physics. I had already passed
Hmm.
three sciences, three English, or all my English, all my math. Had a Regents diploma on the table, and I just didn't want to take physics. I had a teacher that English was a second language. There was everybody in my class. There's English was their second language, and those two languages wasn't the same. So I had nobody even lean on to say, "Hey, let's study together." No, I was on an island by myself. I didn't want to do it, so I didn't do it, and it
Mm-hmm.
made me academically ineligible for playing baseball because
Mm.
I didn't for playing baseball my senior year. So signed myself out of high school and went to an alternative school. Graduated 6 months early, and said, "Now it's time to get busy." So I joined the army.
Yeah. Looking back now, how do you feel about that decision?
I think that was probably the single most pivotal moment in my
Mm-hmm.
life. And while I know it was a rush decision or decision where I felt like I was pinned in a corner and I had to do something because I couldn't ask my parents to front the bill for me to go to college, knowing that I had two other siblings at the time.
Mm.
And the third one was I didn't know the third one was on the way when we made the decision. When I made
Yeah.
that decision, I didn't know that. But third sibling on the way, I'm not gonna ask my parents to fork over $100,000 to pay for me to go to college, and I really didn't know what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
So
Do you think your parents would have forked it over if you asked them?
absolutely, 100%, they would have made it work.
They would have made it work.
They
So
would have
that
made
was just you. That was just you being a big brother, doing what you felt was right for the family,
right,
and you felt it was just time to leave the nest and go
right.
take care of yourself. Yeah, that right there just says volumes of you. All right, how old you were at that time?
18.
18 years old, and you're making already selfless sacrifices for your family. That alone is powerful. Where do you think you got that character from at such a young age? Because think about it, 18-year-olds nowadays, they're
Hmm.
not doing things like that. Where do you think you got that from?
Honestly, I got it from my mom.
Your mom?
Yeah, she's the most selfless person I've ever met in my life.
Hmm.
Yeah.
When you think of your mom, what do you think of?
My sis, my homegirl, my road dog, somebody I do anything for.
Hmm.
Yeah,
That's powerful.
I can't tell her no.
That's powerful. So how'd that conversation go? You get done with alternative school. You go tell your parents you're joining the army. Don't even ask for the money to go to college. How did that whole conversation and that exchange go?
At first, they thought it was about them. They thought I was mad at them.
Mm,
They thought I did that because I wanted to get away from them, and that wasn't 100% true. Yes, I wanted to get away from New York because I felt like if I didn't have baseball, I wasn't gonna make good decisions. Uh,
yeah,
so I wanted to get away from New York, but I wanted to free myself and free them of their responsibility for me because I know that they got other kids to worry about too.
yeah.
So the sooner I can go and start taking care of myself, the sooner they can, you know, be one step closer to being kid free
Man,
in
that's
your life.
man, that's pretty good, man. That's awesome that you were even thinking like that at that age, man. That because I left my household same reason. I just wanted to get out my mom's hair, so
Hmm.
because I was the baby of the family, right?
Oh
I'm
yeah,
leaving the house now. My mom could be free, empty nester, go live her life and go do the things she needed to do. Plus, I didn't want to put that financial burden on her. So, what do you think motivates you to serve?
at first, honestly, my English teacher at the alternative school. She asked me one day. She said, "What are you gonna do?" I said, "I don't know." She said, "What do you want to do for a profession?" I said, "I don't know. I don't know. I literally don't know." This is probably 2 months after the decision to join the school, and I'm just sitting there struggling, thinking to myself, what am I going to do with my life? And she said, people, they're always going to need somebody to manage their money.
Mm-hmm.
Computers are becoming more and more popular, and everybody's going to get sick. There's no shortage of sick people. So she said, you can get into finance, you can get into computers, and you can get into healthcare. And I said, well, I ain't smart enough for computers or finance, so healthcare it is.
I beg to differ. You're one of the smartest dudes I know. So you were probably smart. You are smart enough to do those other fields. So talk us through for the audience, for those young 18-year-olds that are in New York or other inner cities, that are struggling with a decision to join the Army, talk me through how you went to the recruiter and how that whole process laid out for you and what got you to become a flight medic, essentially.
So joining, I didn't really. So when I walked in the recruiter's office, I told him I want to join, and I want to go as quickly as I can. They said, "What
Mm-hmm.
do you want?" They said, "What do you want to be?" I said, "I want to be something that'll get me towards a career path of being a nurse," because that's what that English teacher told me. She said her sister was in community college to be a nurse, and she said in 2 years she can, at the time start making, you know, 17, 18, $19 an hour, which was good money back in the early 2000s at the time, which is
Now,
real
Rock,
good.
real quick, what year was that?
That was in 2003, 2004.
All right. And I say that because 2003, 2004, 17 to $18 was a lot of money.
Yeah.
I know it doesn't seem like a lot right now. That's like the starting wage, but I want the audience to know that starting at that back then, we're talking about 20 years ago, that was significant money right out the gate.
Yeah, that was a big deal. So, and I was with an associate's degree, so you're not really gonna get that kind of bang for your buck, just getting out of 2 year school. So that's what I said. And the recruiter said, "Oh yeah, I got the job for you." I said, "What's that?" He said, "Yeah, I'm gonna make you a healthcare specialist. I'm gonna make you a combat medic. That's exactly what a nurse is." And I said, "Okay, bet. Let's go." So
Hey, bro, you gotta love those recruiters, bro, because everybody
man,
I've talked to, we get this exotic name, and
yeah,
then when we show up, like, well, wait a minute, that don't fit the job description.
that don't sound right. That's not what I was asking for, but yeah.
Yeah.
So I went down, took the ASVAB. I think I don't remember what my ASVAB score was. My GT score was 118, and my recruiter was like, when he found that out, he was smiling from ear to ear. He was like, "Yeah, you can have whatever you want." Tried to talk me into a couple different MOSs, and I was like, "Yeah, no, I'm good. I'm gonna stick with this healthcare specialist thing." And that's what it was.
Damn. Now, just for the audience, you get a GT score of 110 or higher, you can pretty much do whatever you want to do in the Army. All right. My GT score is only a 111. Rahkeem got a 118. So that right there tells you how his level of intelligence, like I said earlier, very smart dude, very smart. So he signs you up to be a combat medic.
Mm-hmm.
Where'd you do basic at?
Went to Fort Benning, Georgia.
Okay. Then where'd you do AIT?
Fort Sam, Houston, Texas.
How was basic first off? Knowing that you're going to be a combat medic and now you're pretty much in the home of the infantry.
Mm-hmm. Basic was rough. Basic was rough. Being a little inner city kid from New York, you show up to basic training with the accent, and they just pick you out. They're like, "Oh,
Oh yeah.
you from New York? You think you better than everybody?" I'm like, I didn't say nothing. I didn't say nothing. And
Yeah.
they try to get you. They try to get under your skin, and they got under my skin and boarded a few times. And if I'm gonna be honest, they had to teach me some lessons the rough way, the hard way, a couple times.
Yeah.
But I earned it every single time.
Mm-hmm.
Looking back at it,
Okay.
I earned it every single time. Um, but I think that helped shape the soldier that I became too,
Mm-hmm.
because there's a time and place for all of it, right? And that's
Yeah.
just what I needed to figure out. I needed to figure out there's a time to listen, right, and there's a time to
Mm-hmm.
be vocal, um, and I needed to figure that out, and they helped me learn that early on.
Yeah. And the crazy thing is that's probably those lessons you learned in basic. You had to implement those things that you learned when you probably went to combat as well, right? Because hey, there's a time to be quiet, there's a time to listen, there's a time just to do what the hell we tell you to do,
Right.
right? So that's what I tell a lot of people. The Army is very good at making soldiers. I don't know how it is nowadays. I've been out the Army for 10 years now, but when I was going through, they were very good at making soldiers. And that's something that I applaud them on very much so. So AIT, you Real quick, I want to ask you a little funny question. When I went to basic and just being from the Northeast, now I want everybody to know I lived about probably an hour and 10, 15 minutes away from New York City. I grew up in Bridgeport.
Oh, okay.
One thing I know, New York people are some of the proudest people in the world. They want everybody to know what borough they're from. They don't matter. And that's how it was when I got to basic. If they were from the Bronx, they telling every year, I'm from Bronx, New York. Did you experience that or were you just quiet?
Oh no, I experienced it.
All
Yeah.
right.
Because where you from? The
So,
Bronx. If you say you're from New York, people, the first place is where. And if you don't
yeah,
say one of the five, you don't say one of the five boroughs, I'm like, you're not from New York. You need to say you're
correct.
from New York State. You need to make
Correct.
that
They,
distinction.
they will check you real quick. That's one thing about the New Yorkers from the city. They will check you. Because they protect theirs. They really do. All right, so you learned a lot of basic, shipped off the AIT. How was that transition?
Um, so back then when I went, there were still drill sergeants in AIT in basic and in AIT. Um, but I guess from the drill sergeants in AI in basic and AIT, there's a lot of competition between the two of them. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't know that female drill instructors existed. So when I went to AIT, I saw a female and I was like, oh, what is that? Like, why is I just got over 9 weeks of being around nothing but guys. I didn't know
Yeah.
females existed at
Mm-hmm.
this part of my career because that's all you knew, right? You knew to eat 3 times a day. You sleep from when they tell you to sleep. You wake up when they tell you to wake up, and you do what they tell you
Yep.
to do. And you know, I saw a female drill instructor. I was like, why is she wearing that funny hat?
Yeah.
But I tell you what, I wouldn't want to cross none of them because
Yeah.
they were meaner than some of the males.
They were tough. My class actually, I went to Fort Sill, Oklahoma for basic, and we were one of the first co-ed basic training uh, cohorts groups. So I had female basic drill sergeants, and they were tough, man.
Hmm.
These ladies are tough. So basic or AIT, how'd you do? Were you like an honor grad? Did you excel, or were you just
None of the.
a fly on the wall?
I wish I could say that I was a fly on the wall. I was not. The New York accent always had the spotlight on me, but it wasn't usually good.
Yeah.
It wasn't usually good. So
How long was AIT for you?
AIT was 16 weeks.
16 weeks. So we're looking at 27, no wait, 28 weeks total of basic and AIT.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
At what point did you find out what your first duty station?
Probably 3 to 4 weeks before I was leaving, before I was supposed to graduate.
Where was your first duty station?
Fort Lewis, Washington,
Okay. What year did you get there?
2004.
2004.
Yeah, I got there
All
in
right.
September, October 2004.
Okay. What unit were you a part of?
So I was with the 547th Area Support Medical Company.
What side of the airfield were you on?
The not so cool side of the airfield.
Over by the side of where Ranger Regiment was?
So I was on the side by Ranger Regiment, just down the hill where the medical brigade was.
Okay. Okay. So you joined the army, just to clarify for the audience, you joined the army what year?
2004, March of 2004.
March 2004. Now I like to ask all my guests this question, especially someone like you that was in New York at the time. Where were you during 9/11?
Watching the whole thing happen,
Like live and in color.
live and in color. Yeah. So my high school was just across the river from and in direct line of sight of Shea Stadium, the old Shea Stadium.
Mm-hmm.
Not it's the City Field now, but where the Mets used to play. And on one side of the building, a school, you could see the towers from that whole side. So about the time that the first tower got hit, nobody would really go to class. Everybody's in the hallway. Everybody's trying to like figure out what's going on. Um, and we just, some of us had a vantage point in the stairwell up on the third floor just to be able to see the second tower actually get hit. Um,
Wow.
and then they let school out, told everybody they had to go home. It was a wild day. That was a wild rest of the day.
I only can imagine. Man, you making the hair on my you making like giving me goosebumps just telling me that story.
Yeah. So funny story. I don't tell this story too often, but so my dad worked for Coca Cola, and his route
Mm-hmm.
was on Wednesdays. I think it was a Wednesday, whatever day it was. His route, he was supposed to be in the basement of the World Trade Center by 7:30, and he was supposed to
That morning.
that morning. He was supposed to refill all of the um
Holy
the,
moly.
the machines that's in the train station. So there's a train station at the bottom of the World Trade Center, right? And it's
Mm-hmm.
like there's like, I don't know, probably four, six, seven different lines of trains that intersect at the World Trade Center. So he spends probably a good 2-3 hours down there. I'm guessing 2-3 hours down there doing his thing, refilling those machines every week. So, and also at the time, the cell towers were on top of the World Trade Center. So when the towers went
Mm-hmm.
down, you got no cell phone service. The trains are shut down. They said no more trains. Trains, that all the lines are shut down. Everybody get out. The buses are free for the rest of the day, but they only, at the start of the bus route, people get on the bus and they go till everybody gets off. But the buses are so packed, if you're not between the first and the last stop, you can't get on because there's nobody getting off.
Yeah.
So a lot of people, including my mom, had to walk across the Brooklyn Bridge barefoot to get to the other side,
Damn.
to get off Manhattan, to get off the island, so that they can get home. So yeah, no cell phone contact. My sister at the time, she goes to school walking distance from the house, so she don't have to take a bus. She just walk 15
Yeah.
minutes, and she picks up my little brother from school at that point in time, because my little brother goes to kindergarten like around the corner from the house. So she just come home, pick him up, and then come back to the house. Let me see. And then, so my dad's in my mind, I'm thinking my dad's supposed to be in the towers. The towers just got
Yep.
hit. I'm thinking he's gone, right? I'm thinking he's
Mm-hmm.
trapped in the building. It's going to be a couple days before we figure out what the deal is. Um, I can't call home to check on nobody because the cell phone towers are down. There's no connectivity whatsoever. Um, So I'm just in my head, I'm like thinking, preparing for the worst, right? I haven't heard from my mom,
Yeah.
heard from my dad. I'm trusting in my sister and brother at the house, and they good. But I'm just I'm doomsday prepping in my head on the way home. I got to raise my brother and sister now. What do I do with this, that, and the other?
Yeah.
And I when I come around the block, we live on a dead end block. I come around the block and I look and I see my dad's car on a tow truck. The tow truck backed up on the street, just in the car sitting out there. He never even lowered it. It's just sitting there. And I'm like, why is my dad's car on this tow truck? Like, did they did they tow his car from there that quick? And they just got
Yeah.
us. I walk in the front of the house, open the door, and he's sitting on the couch, feet propped up in some shorts, watching the news. He just looks at me and starts laughing. And I'm like, what's so funny? He's like, what? What happened? You see what they did to the towers? I said, see what they did to the towers? Yeah, I saw what they did to the towers. You supposed to be in there. Why are you laughing? None of this is funny right now. And
Yeah.
he's cracking jokes. I like took my book bag off and threw it at him because
Yeah.
I wasn't mad that he was there, but I was like thinking in my head the worst of the
Yeah.
worst.
Yeah.
And I said, you heard from mommy? He said, yeah, I heard from her. She called from a payphone. She walking barefoot across the bridge, and he started laughing some more. And I said, you are not funny. Like, you are not this. I know this is funny, but it's not funny. I'm glad everybody's
Yeah.
okay, but yeah, that was so that's the kind of person my dad was. He'd take any
Do you
situation
think
about it.
with the amount of stuff that you've been through, that we've been through together, and the way we've seen individuals handle trauma, do you think your dad was in some form of shock at that moment?
Looking back at it, this is the first time I'm thinking about that in that way. Um, and looking back at it now, I'd have to say yes.
Because those are the telltale signs, right? Because your dad knew where he was supposed to be that day, right?
Right,
He didn't know how where his son is at, where his two daughters, his other son, where his wife is at, right? And the way just talking to you for the last 35 minutes talking about your parents, he loves your father loves his family dearly. And for him not to know where they're at, knowing that he was supposed to be in those towers, man, you already know how the body, how the mind responds to traumatic situations. It doesn't even make sense to us sometimes, right?
Yep.
Man, that's crazy, man. You giving me the chills. So, how old are you when all this was going on?
15.
15. At
15.
any point were you like, I want to join in the army, go do something patriotic, or were you just like, I'm still in school, I can't even think about that right now?
Probably for some point in time after that, I was like, yeah, the sense of pride that came with being an American in those days that followed. I think everybody, whether they were able-bodied or not, felt like they wanted to contribute in some way.
Yeah.
I definitely did, but I also definitely witnessed a lot of things that made my heart hurt a little bit at that age too, right?
Mm-hmm.
In the days that surrounded 9/11, there was a lot of speculation as to what who did this, who's responsible for this, and the
Yeah.
common theme that it was Middle Easterners
Mm-hmm.
of whatever descent. And growing up in New York, the melting pot, it was kind of tough to watch sometimes because people that people that didn't look like you or me, that looked like they were Middle Easterners, couldn't come outside.
Yeah.
They couldn't come
Yeah.
outside. I've seen fathers get abused in front of their daughters, right? That ain't had nothing to do with this, right? They didn't have nothing to
Mm-hmm.
do with it. They might have been Indian, they might have been Pakistani, they may have been, from somewhere that had nothing to do with Iraq and Afghanistan or the global war on terror, but they fell victim to some people's wrath and
Yeah.
plain old ignorance just because they spoke with an accent, they had the right color to them, so they were being victims of assault unjustly.
Yeah. Damn, that had to be being 15, watching all that. I know that had to be a crazy experience, and you're just sitting here questioning a lot of things.
Yeah, I've stepped into the middle of those situations to stop people and say, "Hey, man, listen, that's not making any sense. This is a man
Mm-hmm.
taking his daughter to school. He didn't have
Yeah.
nothing, he didn't have nothing to do with what just happened, right? That's all speculation.
Yeah.
We don't know anything about any of that. Leave that man alone."
Yep. And that's one thing, man. The streets are very unforgiving.
Hmm.
Very unforgiving. And that's something I tell a lot of kids that I mentor. Like the streets do govern themselves, sometimes unjustly, a lot of times, sometimes unjustly, sometimes it may be justly, but it is a scary thing when you see somebody, because I had a similar situation too, right?
Right.
It is very scary when you're at that young age and you're watching these individuals get treated with violence and they never got their due process, or they may have been falsely accused, because you know that men that look like you and I, the same thing can happen in the blink of an eye.
Hmm.
And it probably has happened. And it's a bad feeling. It is a very hopeless feeling because people get irrational, right?
Hmm.
And once they're irrational, they're hard to talk to, and they're hard to calm down and make them see, hey, you're not making good choices right now.
Right.
So, damn, that was, with all the things you experienced in life, where would you put 9/11? What you just talked about, where would you place that on if I had to use a lack of terms, your ladder of trauma and the impression it had on you?
It'd definitely be in my top 10. It'd
Top
be
10.
it'd be in my top 10.
That's significant because I know the stuff you've been through.
Yeah.
So that's very significant.
Yeah.
So you show up 2004, because I'll tell you real quickly, when I was in Fort Lewis, we are there at the same time, didn't even know it. All right, but I was part of 296. 296, it was a support battalion, combat support battalion. We are getting ready to go to Iraq with
Mm.
2ID, 2nd Brigade, the Striker Brigade.
Okay.
So you first get there. What was your initial experience in reaction to Fort Lewis? Because mind you, I want to paint this picture to everybody. Rakeem's living, growing up his whole life in New York City. 27, roughly 30 weeks later, he's on the West Coast in Washington State, and that's night and day because it was even a culture shock for me when I got there. So, night and day. What was your first experience showing up to Fort Lewis, that Tacoma area? How was that for you?
So I show up, it's overcast, and if you don't know nothing about the
Mm,
area, the whole winter's overcast. It's overcast.
yep.
It's not really raining. It's drizzling a little bit, just enough that if you stood out there for 20 minutes, you get a little damp. Might get a little cold, but it's never really freezing. Um, and I show up when I show up to the reception place. You know, my sponsors show up, my squad leader shows up, and they said, "Enjoy it while you can. We're leaving in less than 60 days."
Hmm.
And I said, "Leaving to go where?" And they said, "To Iraq. We're leaving 60 days.
Wow.
Hurry up, get your stuff, get fitted for DCUs because we're going."
Damn.
That was my first. That was my first. I didn't even have time to move into the house before they're telling me to you go.
So, you show up Fort Lewis. You're a private at this time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Brand new private, straight out of AIT. First duty station. Get there. First thing they tell you, you're going to combat.
Yep,
60 days. So, did you end up going to combat?
I did. We
You went to
left. On,
Iraq?
we left on December first week of December. It was like December 4th or 5th or something like that. It was very early in December we left.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Now, audience, I just want you guys to know this. This is how crazy the military is. I never knew. I didn't meet Raheem till we met in 2011, correct?
Mm-hmm. Somewhere around there.
2011. We're both stationed at Fort Lewis at the same time. All right. We're only an airfield away from each other.
I got to Iraq. We went through Kuwait, and I went to Camp Slayer in Baghdad.
What was
Yeah.
that experience showing up to Iraq?
You know, it wasn't what everybody made it out to be, right? I'm thinking, bullets flying everywhere. It's just constant go, and it wasn't nothing like that at all, right?
Hmm.
Showed up. I had a roommate. We was in bunk beds. We was in this little containerized housing units. We could shower every day.
Yeah.
Uh, we were doing the relief in place process with some National Guard guys, and they were. I mean, if you met National Guard guys, they usually go by first name basis, and
Hmm.
it almost felt like it wasn't really the Army.
Yeah.
Um, the Super Bowl was a month later after we got there, a
Hmm.
month and a half later. I'm a 19-year-old private at the time at war, and and what do we do? They got the Super Bowl playing in the dining facility, and they
Mm.
allow everybody to get 2 beers.
Damn.
So I'm like, oh, wait a minute, this isn't like this at all. This is
Yeah.
I'm watching a Super Bowl drinking beer and running sick call, right? Is what we're doing at the time. So
So that
it
was your
was
primary mission. Were you working at a tell the audience because I don't want to misspeak. Tell the audience where you were working, the type of facility it was, and what exactly you were doing during that first deployment.
really it was myself, a few other medics, um, and a PA running an aid station, right? So we were like the first aid for everybody on the camp. The camp wasn't very big. It might have had 300 people on it, if that.
Hmm.
So it was a lot of downtime um, for most of the portion of that deployment that we were there. Um, it really wasn't a whole lot going on. Really wasn't a
Okay.
whole lot going on. I ended up there was a range on the camp, and there were some guys that ran personnel security, um, running dignitaries in and around Baghdad that I would go to the range and go shoot with them, and they kind of just asked, they said, "Hey, we need a medic. Our guy had to go back home. Would you be able to do that with us?" And I think probably shouldn't even tell this. I'd probably get my squad leader in trouble all these years later. And she was like, "Yeah, go ahead. You can go ahead, go do that with them." So they like let me shoot with them. Gave me some body armor. Gave me some little cool guy uniforms. We ran a couple little security missions. I didn't know what I was doing. I had no idea.
Yeah.
I was just one of the cool guys.
Yeah.
Uh,
Okay.
so
How
we
long
did
were you
that.
in Iraq for?
That deployment, I was in Iraq for 11 months. Uh,
11 months.
we finished up that deployment. I did that, and I think we had gotten in trouble. I think my commander found out and he said, "All of y'all come on up to Camp Taji."
Hmm.
So that's what we ended up doing, going up to Camp Taji for the rest of the deployment. We ran a bigger aid station for a larger camp, Camp Victory. So we were the primary hospital for that camp
Okay.
for the rest of that deployment. And that was that.
What was your most memorable moment in Iraq during that time?
Most memorable moment in Iraq during that time. Um, we had this lieutenant colonel, a doctor. He was a cardiologist, pediatric cardiologist at the time. As a matter of fact, um, super cool dude. I don't even remember his name, um, but he was real cool. We had um, we had a casualty, an Iraqi child, come through, and that was my first dealing with any sort of real trauma,
Yeah.
or real, sick patient. I don't know what caused it. I don't remember what caused it. I think it might have been burns, might have been some abuse. I don't know. But they brought that kid in. The kid was dead when they came in. We
Mm.
worked as a team to attempt to resuscitate that kid. And me, just being 19 and naive, not knowing anything, was able to be hyper focused and start an IV. And now here I am, a PV2, and
Yeah.
we're debriefing this thing, and this lieutenant colonel sitting there telling me, "Hey, man, that was pretty awesome that you were able to get an IV in these situations, so we could give meds. You don't know how big of a deal that was." And I really just sat there all doe-eyed, not really knowing how big of a deal that really, really was.
Yeah.
Thinking like, "Oh yeah, I just did what I was supposed to do. I just did what you told me to do. I don't know."
Yeah.
But that stuck with me for a while, because not only him, but there was a major who was a nurse also echoed the same thing, and she didn't give compliments.
Mm.
She didn't give compliments at all. Um, but yeah, that stuck out with me for that deployment, which is not much, but when I think back to
And
that
for the
was
audience, we're gonna get to where Raheem ended up at, and it is night and day. I'm here to tell you. But one thing I do want to point out, I just want to go back to basic, and I want the audience to understand why the Army does what it does. You said something earlier that the Army taught you to do what you were supposed to do what you're told, and they pretty much train us to the point where everything is muscle memory, from flying helicopters, being a medic. You're under This is the first traumatic incident in a combat zone, so I'm pretty sure you, especially as a PV2, right? You're probably under a lot of stress, duress, a lot going on, a lot of confusion, maybe scared. I'm not sure. But for your training to kick in and do something very small, but super important, right?
Mhm.
Says a lot about how you compose yourself, and it'll be a testament to the things you've done in the future. So, hats off to you once again. You get done with Iraq. What's your next step in your army journey?
so come back from Iraq, and I wasn't really satisfied with that deployment. I wasn't satisfied with the organization or really the mission. I felt like I had more to contribute.
When you
So
say the organization, do you mean the army as a whole or the medical field?
the company that I was with, it was an area support medical
Okay.
company, which really what they did was run around and set up aid stations, right?
Okay.
So that's I roll my ankle, hey, my stomach hurts, that kind of stuff.
Mm,
Up to where, hey, somebody they brought a casualty in, and you're expected to deliver on that too. But your primary mission is, hey, support the war fighter when they need clean socks. Hey, grab them a set of clean socks. When they got a headache, give them some ibuprofen. That kind of stuff. And I felt like I could do more.
can you
So
Real quick for the audience, can you just paint a picture from doing work in the aid station to being to doing like, and I don't want to misspeak, correct me if you have to because you're the professional, doing work in the aid station compared to doing like emergency trauma. Just paint a picture like how far those two contrasts are, those two aspects are from each other.
It's so far apart from one another, right? So I mean, there's nothing that you're gonna go get in the aid station that you can't really go get at Walgreens right now, right?
Mm,
You know,
yeah.
my stomach hurts. I'm a little nauseous. I can go pick up some Pepto Bismol
Yeah.
off the counter, right? You know, I got a little headache. I can or fever. I can get some Tylenol and ibuprofen. I roll my ankle. I can go buy a wrist wrap and an ice pack, ankle wrap and a wrist pack, ice pack from Walgreens.
Mm-hmm.
Versus the kind of stuff that you know we're going to end up talking about is the kind of stuff that you can't help yourself when it comes to these kinds of things. You need some intervention, and if somebody
Yeah.
doesn't intervene, you know this story only ends one way.
Yeah.
So
All right. Appreciate that. All right. So you leave Iraq. What happens next in your military career?
I come back and there's this unit, the forward surgical team, or the jump team is what they called it back then, and they were on jump status, and they were literally right up the hill. My company, it was down in a parking lot, gravel parking lot, literally right up on the hills. These 12 guys with and gals with maroon berets, and they're like, "Hey, we're looking for somebody. Why don't you come try out?" My squad leader sees me and she's like, "Hey, you should definitely go try out for that." I said, "Trial? What does that even mean? I don't know what that means." She's like, "Just
Mm-hmm.
go shine your boots, put on a set of uniforms and a fresh set of uniform, and I'll take you up there and introduce you to them." So she takes me up there, introduced me to this old E7, crusty E7, and he's like, "Oh, so you want to be a part of the jump team?" I said, "Yeah, I want to be a part of jump. I don't even know what it is. I'm just
Mm-hmm.
at this point. This is that false motivation. I'm like, yeah, I'm trying to join the team." And he's like, "All right, I'll see you tomorrow at 10 o'clock. We'll see you right here for an interview." So we walk away, made my squad leader walk away, and I said, "What did you just sign me up for? I don't know what this is." She's like, "Well, you better go
Mm-hmm.
find out. You better go find out." So she walks me up to brigade. She gets me the unit's history and their mission and all this other stuff. She said, "You don't sleep till the stuff's memorized. Don't sleep till the
Damn.
stuff memorized. You take this uniform off, you go starch it again, you shine those boots, and I'll see you here at 10 o'clock. Don't worry about PT in the morning." Right? So she now mind you, I'm her soldier, right? I'm her soldier.
Yeah.
She's encouraging me to go to this unit that she don't want nothing to do with, right? But
Yeah.
she's pushing me like get up out of here. So I do. I do. I get to the interview and I'm
Thank you for tuning in to Heroes Have Wings, where we honor the extraordinary stories of grit, sacrifice, and resilience. Remember, every hero's journey starts with a single step, so take yours today. If you love this episode, like, subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Until next time, keep pushing limits, breaking barriers, and living your truth. I'm your host, Jason Santiago, and this is Heroes Have Wings, where legends rise.